The agreement. Sophia Lynn walked through the empty lobby of the Golden Lotus Hotel, her footsteps echoing against marble floors that had lost their luster years ago. The boutique hotel had been her family's pride for 3 generations. Built by her grandparents after immigrating from Hong Kong with little more than determination and a dream. Now it was dying, strangled by mounting debt and declining bookings as corporate hotel chains moved into the neighborhood with their sleek modernization and marketing. Budgets larger than the Golden Lotus's annual revenue. Sophia paused at the reception desk, running her fingers over the antique jade dragon that had greeted guests for decades. The latest financial reports lay beside it, numbers that couldn't be massaged into anything resembling hope. 3 months until foreclosure, 3 months until she failed her family's legacy and the 15 employees who depended on her. Her phone vibrated with a message from her brother. David, don't forget the Chamber of Commerce networking event tonight. You promised. Important contacts there, Sophia sighed. The thought of making small talk with successful business people while her own was failing made her stomach knot. But David was right. She needed connections, investment, a miracle. And miracles didn't happen to people who stayed home feeling sorry for themselves. 6 hours later, Sophia stood at the edge of a glittering ballroom in a hotel that exemplified everything the Golden Lotus wasn't. Ultra-modern, efficient, soulless. She wore her only cocktail dress, a simple black sheath that had seen too many similar events, and clutched a glass of champagne she hadn't tasted. Sophia Lynn, a deep voice said beside her. The Golden Lotus Hotel, correct? She turned, startled, and found herself looking up at Callum Winters. She recognized him instantly. Everyone in the hospitality industry did. At 36, he had transformed his father's modest hotel business into the Winters Hospitality Group, a global chain of luxury properties known for acquisitions and ruthless efficiency. Mr. Winters, she acknowledged, trying to hide her surprise. I didn't think I registered on your radar. His mouth curved slightly, not quite a smile. I make it my business to know every player in the industry, especially in cities where I'm expanding. Tall with sharp features and calculating green eyes, Callum Winters carried himself with the confident ease of someone who had never worried about a bank foreclosure in his life. His tailored suit probably cost more than the Golden Lotus's monthly payroll. Player seems generous, Sophia replied. The Golden Lotus is hardly competition for the Winters Group. Not in its current state, he agreed with brutal honesty, though its location has potential. I understand your father's stroke left you managing the property alone. The casual mention of her family's personal struggle irritated her. Yes, and we're managing fine. Are you? His eyebrow lifted slightly. The foreclosure notice filed last week suggests otherwise. Heat rushed to Sophia's face. How did you— Information is currency in business, Callum interrupted smoothly. I'd like to discuss a proposition with you. Somewhere private. Warning bells rang in Sophia's mind, but curiosity and desperation won out. She followed him to a secluded corner of the terrace where city lights spread below them like fallen stars. I'll be direct, Ms. Lynn, Callum said once they were alone. I need a wife and you need financial rescue. Sophia nearly choked on her champagne. Excuse me? A business arrangement, he clarified, unperturbed by her reaction. I'm negotiating a partnership with investors from Dubai worth billions. They're extremely traditional and have expressed concerns about working with someone who lacks family values. So hire an actress for your meetings, Sophia suggested, stunned by his audacity. They're more thorough than that. They want someone genuine, with her own reputation and business interests. He studied her with calculated assessment. You're respected in the community despite your financial troubles. Your family name carries weight. You're intelligent, presentable, and most importantly, motivated by necessity. Sophia couldn't decide whether to be offended or impressed by his bluntness. And what exactly would this arrangement entail? A legal marriage, 2 years minimum. You would live in my residence, accompany me to business and social functions, and present a convincing image of marital contentment. In return, I would clear the Golden Lotus's debts, fund complete renovations to modern luxury standards, and provide you with financial security. And in private? Sophia asked, the question slipping out before she could stop it. Something flickered in Callum's expression, so briefly she might have imagined it. In private, we maintain a professional relationship. Separate bedrooms, separate lives where possible. The specifics would be outlined in a contract, along with the dissolution terms after our arrangement concludes. Sophia stared at him, waiting for the punchline. When none came, she laughed nervously. This is insane. People don't actually do this. People do whatever necessary to achieve their goals, Callum replied evenly. You need $15 million to save your hotel and support your father's medical care. I need a wife to secure a multi-billion-dollar deal. It's simple economics. The casual mention of the exact amount needed to save the Golden Lotus stunned her. He had done his research thoroughly. I need time to think, she said finally. You have 48 hours, he replied, handing her a business card with an embossed phone number. After that, I'll pursue other candidates. Candidates. As if this were a job interview rather than a marriage proposal. The term should have offended her, but instead it clarified the nature of what he was suggesting. This wasn't romance, it was business. Sophia barely remembered the rest of the event, her mind consumed by Callum's proposition. Back in her small apartment, she paced for hours, weighing impossibilities against necessities. At dawn, she called her brother. He wants to marry you? David's voice rose in disbelief after she explained. Sophia, this is crazy. You can't seriously be considering this. The bank gives us 3 months. David, 3 months before we lose everything Mom and Dad and Grandpa worked for. She pressed her fingers against the headache forming behind her eyes. What other option do we have? There has to be another way, David insisted. Business loans, private investors. We've tried all that, Sophia interrupted. Nobody wants to invest in a boutique hotel competing against chains. Not in this economy. Silence stretched between them before David sighed. What does your heart tell you? My heart isn't the one making this decision, Sophia replied softly. This is about survival. After hanging up, Sophia stood at her window watching the city wake up. She thought about her father in the rehabilitation center, working to regain his speech. She thought about Mrs. Zhang, who had cleaned the Golden Lotus's rooms for 25 years and had no other skills to market. She thought about the generations of guests who had celebrated weddings, anniversaries and milestones within those walls. With steady hands, she dialed the number on Callum's card. I accept your proposition, she said when he answered, but I have conditions. The Golden Lotus remains in my family's name. I retain operational control, and this arrangement remains strictly professional unless both parties agree otherwise. Agreed, Callum replied without hesitation. I'll have contracts prepared. We marry in 2 weeks. That's enough time to create a plausible courtship narrative for public consumption. 2 weeks later, Sophia stood in a dressing room at Callum's estate, staring at her reflection in a designer wedding gown she hadn't chosen. Everything had moved with whirlwind efficiency, prenuptial agreements, press announcements fabricating a secret romance, carefully staged photographs showing them as a couple in love. The small ceremony was arranged to look intimate rather than hasty, with Sophia's brother and father attending alongside Callum's carefully selected business associates. As she prepared to walk down the aisle, Sophia reminded herself that this wasn't really a wedding. It was a business transaction with floral arrangements. When she entered the garden where the ceremony would take place, Sophia was surprised to find it decorated with lotus flowers and traditional Chinese elements alongside Western wedding trappings, a gesture toward her heritage she hadn't expected from a man like Callum Winters. He waited at the altar, impeccably dressed in a tailored tuxedo, his expression composed and unreadable. When their eyes met, something shifted in his gaze momentarily before the businesslike mask returned. The ceremony passed in a blur. They exchanged vows that sounded sincere but meant nothing, gold rings that symbolized a commitment neither felt. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Callum leaned forward and pressed his lips against hers in a kiss that was perfectly calibrated. Not too brief to seem cold, not too lingering to suggest genuine passion. It was, Sophia thought with an unexpected pang of emptiness, exactly like everything else about Callum Winters, precisely executed but devoid of warmth. The perfect business transaction. As they turned to face their applauding guests, Callum's hand rested lightly against the small of her back, a gesture of intimacy that was entirely for show. Sophia smiled radiantly, playing her part in this elaborate performance. Mrs. Callum Winters, wife in name only, a role she would play for 2 years to save everything she loved. What she hadn't considered, what neither of them had, was what might happen to hearts treated like business assets. when genuine emotion wasn't part of the contract they'd so carefully negotiated. Parallel lives. The first month of marriage found Sophia and Callum in a carefully choreographed dance of proximity without intimacy. His penthouse had become her residence, a modern glass and steel structure 30 floors above the city, with spectacular views and minimal warmth. "Your suite is through here," Callum had explained on their wedding night, showing her to a luxurious bedroom with adjoining sitting room and bath. "Mine is at the opposite end of the hall. The staff has been instructed to respect your privacy." By day, Sophia managed the renovation of the Golden Lotus, overseeing contractors and designers with newfound confidence backed by adequate funding. By evening, she transformed into Mrs. Winters, accompanying her husband to business dinners and social functions where they presented a convincing image of marital contentment. Despite their agreement to maintain distance, small moments of connection began to appear in the routine of their lives. Callum, noticing her late nights reviewing renovation plans, created a dedicated workspace for her in his home office. When she mentioned her preference for jasmine tea, it appeared in the kitchen the following morning. These gestures confused Sophia, especially when contrasted with his reputation for ruthless business tactics. The contradiction became more apparent when her father suffered a setback at the rehabilitation center. "Go," Callum said simply when she received the call. "Take my car. It's faster." When Sophia arrived at the hospital, she was shocked to find Callum already there, having rearranged his schedule to arrive before her. "You didn't need to come," she said, confused by his presence. "Family obligations are part of our arrangement," he replied matter-of-factly, though something in his expression suggested another motivation. Later that week, searching for a misplaced file, Sophia accidentally discovered a hidden room in the penthouse, Callum's private art studio, filled with landscapes painted with unexpected sensitivity and emotion. "You weren't meant to see this," Callum said from the doorway, his voice tight. "Why hide it?" Sophia asked, studying a painting of a solitary lighthouse against a stormy sea. "These are beautiful." "Beauty has no place in business," he replied simply, closing the door. The brief glimpse of vulnerability vanished behind his usual composed facade. Their carefully maintained boundaries faced their first real test during a weekend business retreat at a mountain resort. A booking error left them with a single suite instead of separate rooms. "I can sleep on the sofa," Callum offered pragmatically. That night, as a storm raged outside, Sophia woke to find Callum standing by the window, silhouetted against flashes of lightning, his usual armor of control momentarily absent. "I never sleep well during storms," he admitted when he noticed her watching him. Something in his unguarded confession drew Sophia from her bed. Standing beside him, watching the tempest beyond the glass, she felt a strange connection to this man she had married but didn't truly know. When their hands accidentally touched on the windowsill, neither pulled away immediately. The simple contact felt more intimate than any public performance they had enacted. In the darkness, with thunder masking the sound of their quickened breathing, Sophia found herself wondering what might happen if she leaned closer. The moment shattered when Callum stepped back abruptly, his mask of professional detachment sliding back into place. "We should get some rest," he said, voice controlled once more. "Early meetings tomorrow." As Sophia returned to her bed, she realized with unsettling clarity that the lines between performance and reality were beginning to blur in ways neither of them had anticipated in their carefully crafted contract. Cracks in the foundation. 6 months into their arrangement, the renovated Golden Lotus reopened to critical acclaim. Modern luxury now complemented traditional elements, creating a unique boutique experience that immediately attracted attention in the hospitality industry. "Bookings are exceeding projections by 30%. Sophia told Callum as they celebrated privately on the hotel's rooftop garden. "I couldn't have done this without you." "You did the work," he replied, his usual reserve softened by genuine appreciation. "I merely provided resources." Something had shifted between them in recent months. Their public appearances had evolved from performance to something resembling genuine companionship. Sophia found herself looking forward to their evening conversations, while Callum seemed to linger longer at breakfast, sharing coffee and actually listening to her ideas. The fragile equilibrium shattered with the arrival of Victoria Chen, Callum's former flame and current real estate developer, who immediately recognized their marriage for what it was. "A business arrangement, Callum? Really?" Victoria cornered them at an industry function, her smile sharp as glass. How convenient that your bride happens to own prime real estate you've been eyeing for years. Later that evening, Victoria approached Sophia privately. He'll discard you once he gets what he wants. That's what Callum does. To her own surprise, Sophia felt a surge of possessiveness. You seem remarkably concerned with my husband's motivations. Perhaps you should focus on your own business, rather than my marriage. The confrontation revealed feelings Sophia hadn't acknowledged even to herself, a growing attachment to the complex man behind the ruthless business reputation. That attachment deepened when Callum's estranged father reappeared after years of absence, triggering a glimpse into Callum's closely guarded past. Sophia overheard a heated exchange that explained much about her husband's emotional detachment. You abandoned us when Mom got sick, Callum's voice carried from his office. I was 16, working 3 jobs to pay for her treatments while you were building a new life. Later that night, finding him alone in his art studio, Sophia offered simple companionship rather than questions. My father left when I was 7, she shared quietly. Different circumstances, but I understand the absence. Something broke in Callum's carefully maintained facade. For the first time, he spoke about his past, his mother's illness, their poverty, his desperate fight to succeed in a world that had shown him no kindness. The vulnerability of his confession cracked something open between them. When Sophia touched his face gently, the kiss that followed wasn't for show or business advantage. It was genuine, hungry with long-suppressed emotion. For one breathless moment, Callum responded with equal fervor before abruptly pulling away, shock evident in his expression. This isn't part of our agreement, he said, voice strained. Callum, I have an early meeting tomorrow, he interrupted, retreating behind his professional mask. Good night, Sophia. As he walked away, leaving her alone in the studio surrounded by his hidden art, Sophia realized their carefully negotiated contract had failed to account for the most unpredictable variable of all. Genuine feelings developing where none were supposed to exist. Breaking point. The fragile connection between Sophia and Callum fractured in the weeks following their unplanned kiss. He worked increasingly late hours, while she threw herself into managing the thriving Golden Lotus. When together in public, they maintained their performance flawlessly, but private moments were filled with strained silence. The brewing tension exploded when Victoria Chen leaked hints about their arrangement to industry insiders, suggesting the Golden Lotus's success came through Sophia's special arrangement with Callum Winters. Did you tell her about our contract? Callum demanded when the rumors reached him. Of course not, Sophia replied, hurt by his immediate suspicion. Why would I undermine everything we've built? Because the hotel is secure now, he said coldly. You've achieved your objective. Is that what you think of me? Sophia's voice shook with anger and hurt. That I'd use you and then betray you? You're the one who proposed this arrangement in the first place. A business decision I'm beginning to regret, he replied, the words cutting deeper than he intended. That night, Sophia packed her things and moved back to her family's apartment above the Golden Lotus. They continued appearing together at necessary functions, their smiles never reaching their eyes, their touches carefully calibrated to appear loving while maintaining maximum distance. Weeks into their separation, a violent storm swept through the city. Sophia received a 2 a.m. call from her night manager. The Golden Lotus's newly restored roof was leaking badly, threatening the renovated rooms below. When she arrived, soaking wet from the downpour, she found Callum already there, directing staff and contractors, his expensive suit ruined as he helped move furniture away from water damage. What are you doing here? She asked, shocked by his presence. Your manager called me after you, he explained simply. I thought you could use the help. They worked side by side through the night, the crisis temporarily bridging the gulf between them. As dawn broke, with the immediate danger contained, they found themselves alone in the hotel's kitchen, exhausted and still damp. Victoria approached me months ago, Callum admitted suddenly. She wanted to partner on a development that would have required demolishing the Golden Lotus. I refused. Sophia stared at him, processing this revelation. Why didn't you tell me? Because it wasn't relevant to our arrangement. Stop hiding behind the arrangement. Sophia's patience finally snapped. This hasn't been just business for months, and you know it. Callum's careful composure cracked. What do you want from me, Sophia? The truth. Are you actually incapable of real connection? Or just terrified of it? His silence was answer enough. I've spent my life building walls to protect myself, he finally admitted, voice barely audible. Then you came along and somehow got through them without even trying. The honest vulnerability in his confession broke through Sophia's anger. When he cautiously reached for her hand across the table, she didn't pull away. I don't know how to do this, he confessed quietly. Any of it. Neither do I, she admitted. We didn't exactly start this relationship in the conventional way. For the first time in weeks, they shared a genuine smile. Something fundamental had shifted between them, the pretense of their business arrangement, finally giving way to acknowledge the real feelings that had developed despite their best efforts to maintain emotional distance. Part 5. Renovation. As their 2-year contract approached its conclusion, the Golden Lotus had become one of the city's premier boutique hotels. While Sophia and Callum had reached an undefined territory where their business arrangement had evolved into something neither had anticipated. The Dubai deal, the original purpose of their marriage, had been successfully secured months ago, yet neither had raised the subject of their agreed-upon divorce. When Sophia's father recovered enough to visit the hotel, his shrewd observation cut through their uncertainty. Your mother and I had an arranged marriage, he told Sophia during a private moment. We didn't love each other at first. That came later, through choice and effort. His words resonated with Sophia, prompting her to reconsider what she truly wanted beyond the expiration of their contract. Meanwhile, Callum met with his lawyer to review their dissolution agreement, only to find himself unable to sign the papers that would end their marriage. The thought of returning to his solitary existence in the penthouse without Sophia's warmth and challenging perspective left him with an emptiness he couldn't ignore. On the final night before their contract expired, they hosted an anniversary celebration at the Golden Lotus, an event showcasing both the hotel's transformation and their own evolution from business partners to something far more complex. As guests mingled in the beautifully restored grand lobby, Callum drew Sophia away to the rooftop garden where they had celebrated the hotel's reopening. I have something for you, he said, producing 2 envelopes. What are these? She asked. Options, he replied simply. The first contains dissolution papers as we originally agreed. He hesitated before continuing. The second is a different kind of proposal altogether. Sophia looked at the envelopes, her heart racing. Before I open either, there's something you should know. From her own purse, she withdrew a document. I've been working on a proposal of my own, for a permanent partnership, personal and professional. For the first time in their relationship, Callum laughed with genuine joy. We've approached this like a business deal from the beginning. Why stop now? Because some things transcend business, Sophia replied softly. When Callum took her hands in his, there was no audience to perform for, no investors to impress. Just 2 people who had found unexpected love in the most practical of arrangements. When I proposed this marriage, I thought I was simply solving a problem, Callum admitted. I never expected you to change everything. How I see the world, how I understand success, what actually matters. Is this the famous Callum Winters admitting he was wrong about something? Sophia teased gently. Only about one thing, he replied, drawing her closer. The idea that hearts can be managed like business assets. 1 year later, they renewed their vows in the garden of the Golden Lotus, surrounded by family and friends who celebrated not the business arrangement that had brought them together, but the genuine love that had grown despite their initial intentions. Their relationship, like the hotel itself, had been carefully renovated, preserving what was valuable from the foundation while building something entirely new, proving that sometimes the most enduring structures rise from the most pragmatic beginnings.